And these millions of cells make up our organs, and our organs make up our bodily systems. Everyone following?
Yes, sir.
And we say that we can find bacteria everywhere on Earth, because so we can find them in our body. We probably on the chair that you're sitting on, you have some bacteria on there. There's some bacteria on the computer screen that you're using. There's some bacteria in your kitchen, some bacteria in your bathroom. Everywhere there are bacteria. So anyone want to tell me any place that they think bacteria can exist again? And we also say that bacteria can live in extreme temperatures and pressures. So bacteria can live in the earth core that would have extreme pressures, extreme temperatures like in the desert, that would be extremely hot. And at the North Pole, that would be extremely cold. So this is why bacteria has been around for millions of years. Everyone following so far?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
And here we say that the human body is full of bacteria, and it's said to actually have more bacteria than actual human cells. So right now inside of your bodies, there is more bacteria than actual human cells. So there's more bacteria than the actual cells that you would need as a human being. And we say that most bacteria are harmless and some are even helpful. And we learned about that in Monday's class. So bacteria can come in 3 types of shapes. We have spheres. Anyone know what a sphere looks like? We say that the earth is a sphere. Anyone learn about the earth in class and they said that the earth is a sphere?
Yes, sir.
And we say we can have rods or spirals.
Yes, sir.
So any bacteria that is harmful to the body is called a pathogen. It's called a pathogen, and we describe it as being pathogenic. So pathogenic would be the adjective for bacteria that are harmful, and these can cause diseases. So let's look at some of the shapes. So right here we have the spheres. So we would say they kind of look like circles, but technically not really circles. And here we have rods. So they're kind of long. And for the spirals, we have it has some curves. Everyone can see that?
It is in a column, so we'll do the job work for garments.
We can see that the spirals here are more curved than how the rods are kind of straight, while the spirals have some curves in it, and the spheres are round. So let's look at the bacteria cell.
All right, I sent a job work for.
The first part of a bacteria cell is the capsule.
Just.
Everyone following? You see this capsule?
Yes, sir.
We have the plasma membrane. We can also call the plasma membrane the cell membrane. So right here, we have so first we have the capsule, then the plasma membrane, and inside, and the plasma membrane is surrounding the cytoplasm. And we also have a cell wall right here. So outside, so the cell wall is around the plasma membrane. Can we see that? We see the cell wall?
Yes, sir.
And we have ribosomes. Ribosomes are what makes proteins. Anyone know what a protein is? I'm sure you guys know what protein is.
Yes, sir.
And inside the bacteria cells. So unlike human cells have nucleus, and we say the nucleus is the what of the cell. It's like the brain of the cell. It controls it controls how the brain how the cell interacts with its surroundings. So it controls what the cell does. However, bacterial cells do not have a nucleus. They only have a single strand of DNA. So they only have the they only have the DNA, which is their genetic material. However, in a human cell, the DNA will be found in the nucleus. Hopefully, I'm not going too fast. Everyone understanding?
It's in your mouth. We'll sit here.
Everyone following so far?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So where in the human cell would we find the DNA?
Stop.
Where in the human cell would we find the DNA? Anyone wants to give that a try?
What should we try?
I'm asking where in the human cell would we find the DNA? If
In
you
the
guys are-
nucleus.
Oh, okay, very good. So let's look at the functions of each part. So we say that the capsule acts as a protective coating. When you hear the word protective, what comes to mind? When you hear the word protective, what comes to mind? No one knows what it means to protect? To guard something from harm or from danger. So the capsule acts as a layer so that the cell doesn't easily die, that different chemicals won't harm the cell as much. And the capsule is what would help the bacteria cells to survive under extreme temperatures and pressures. And next we have the cell wall. So we say that the cell wall gives the cell its shape, and it also protects the cell from the outside environment. And we say that the cell has 3 different shapes. Anyone can name one cell shape? You don't have to talk. You can put it in the group. You can put it in the chat. No one wants to put it in the chat.
What did you say, sir?
I'm asking you guys to name one cell shape in the chat.
Okay, sir. Should I just send it to you privately?
If you want to say it out loud or you want to put it in the chat, anyone. Okay, very good. No, we don't have any rectangular. We don't have it. Yes, we can say circular too. Yes, very good.
A plant cell is rectangular.
Unfortunately,
A plant cell
we
is
have
rectangular.
we have rods and we have spears.
What, sir? A plant cell is rectangular.
What?
A plant cell is rectangular.
I didn't say plants. I asked about a bacterial cell.
Bacteria cell.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Not a plant cell.
Oh, bacteria cell. Okay.
Yeah. Don't want to mess that up because that's coming at the exam. So we say that the cytoplasm it functions for cell growth, metabolism. So the functions for cell growth and metabolism happen here. So inside the cytoplasm is where the ribosomes will create. We create protein. So when you guys go on to high school, anyone going to high school soon? Because I think you guys are like 12 to 13.
I'm in second form now.
Okay, that's very good. So in sixth form, you guys will learn about, or in fifth form too, I see they're doing it now. You guys will learn about transcription and how the cells move DNA from the nucleus to the cytoplasm via RNA. But when that times come, you guys will learn about that. So we said that the flagellum or the flagella plural. So they are structures that resemble hair and are used as a means of locomotion or movement. Anyone learn about locomotion in their science class in high school or in grade 6 science class? We learn about senses, and we learn about movement and locomotion.
The name is familiar, but I don't remember.
So we know that in humans, our legs are what we use, our feet are what cause us to move. So our legs are the instruments of locomotion in humans. But in the bacterial cell, the flagella is what they use for locomotion. Everyone understanding?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. What do you say, sir?
I'm saying that in humans we use our legs, or we can say our feet, as a means of locomotion or movement. So if you want to move from one place to the next, wouldn't you walk and you use your feet to walk?
Oh, yes, sir.
And so bacteria use the flagellum to move from one place to the next. And cars have their wheels. So locomotion is just movement, moving from one place to the next. Everyone following so far? Now we have the villi. As I said, that bacteria can be found everywhere on Earth. So they must need something to help them stick to those places. So we say that villi are structures that resemble tiny hairs and help bacteria to attach to other cells and surfaces. Example, the teeth, intestines, and rocks. So as we know, bacteria is in the human body. So bacteria can attach to actual human cells or any other animal cells. Bacteria can also attach to plant cells, and the villi is what they use to attach to those cells. And right now, even as I'm talking, there's bacteria on my teeth, there are bacteria in our intestines, and if you go outside and you put your hand on the rock, some bacteria uses the villi to attach to your hand. So that is why our parents tell us to wash our hands before coming inside from playing, because bacteria, and some bacteria can be harmful. And for the ribosomes, you just have to know that ribosomes help in making proteins. Any structure you guys want me to go over that you weren't clear on? Anything you guys not clear on so far and you want me to go over? Don't be shy. If there's anything you guys didn't understand and you want me to repeat in simpler terms, just tell me. Everyone's good? Okay. So let's go on to viruses. So now we learned about bacteria, but now the virus is actually a harmful microorganism. So we say a virus is a small parasite that cannot reproduce by itself. When you hear the word parasite, what comes to mind? Personally, for me, when I hear the word parasite, I think about unwanted. Any other words come to you guys?
Worms. What comes to mind is worms. Parasites.
Is what? What comes to your mind?
Something about worms.
Something about worms. Okay, worms can be parasites in some aspects, so very good. So if you don't want, if you have a plant and you don't want worms on the plant, we can say the worms are parasites because they are unwanted. Yes, very good. So let's look at the properties of viruses. So viruses have no membrane, cytoplasm, ribosomes, or other cell components. so they cannot move or grow. They can only reproduce inside a host cell. So let me give you a little, let's talk about the COVID-19 virus, for example, or we can talk about so what the virus does is it travels inside of the body, then it sticks onto the host cells and like use the host cell to make copies of itself.
Like
You guys
malaria.
understand? What?
Like malaria.
Like malaria?
Yes. When malaria is injected into the bloodstream, it makes its way to the liver and tries to go to a liver cell and might destroy 1 or 2 cells on the way. Then it grows and then makes more of itself, which is then injected into the bloodstream. Then those malarias are now programmed to target blood cells, and then they go into the blood cells so that the immune system cannot touch them. And after a while, they just reproduce in the blood cells, and the blood cells get heavy and sticky, so making them stick to the blood vessel, and then the blood cells burst, and then there's more malaria, there's lots more viruses.
Okay, very good, very good. You want to become a scientist in the future? Very good.
No, I
So
want to become a robotic engineer.
Oh, very good. So two major parts of the virus is the protein code, the DNA and the RNA, because it has to use DNA or RNA to actually hijack the host cells. So we say that viruses are extremely tiny, they're smaller than than cells, and they're only visible with electron microscopes. So here they say that even light microscopes have trouble help seeing, even light microscopes have some problem seeing viruses. So we say that the shapes of virus are predominantly of 2 kinds, rods or filaments. So let's look at how viruses infect people. So we say that our bodies are made up of millions of tiny cells. Viruses cannot survive outside of the body for long, so they try to get into the cells in our bodies. When this happens, we say we get infected. So the virus multiplies and can spread around the body. So that is why we cover our face with a mask, because the coronavirus goes it can go up our nose, and then there are cells in our nose, and then the virus replicates and goes into the rest of our bodies. Everyone following so far? You guys understand what I just explained?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. And we say our bodies then fight the infection by producing antibodies that which help us to get better. However, not every virus will be affected by antibiotics. We said that some viruses have antibiotic resistance. That means that they can put up a good fight against the antibodies that your body produces. So if anyone has ever been with sick yet, so the first time as a baby when you have the flu, your body is going to make antibodies to fight it off. And the next time you're going to get the flu again, your body has already know what antibodies to produce, so it can fight off the flu faster. So the first time we catch the flu, a virus enters our body, the virus replicates, and the body produces antibodies to help us fight that virus. And the next time we catch the same flu, our body already has antibodies, so it helps. So that's why we get better faster the second time that we catch the same cold or flu. Everyone understanding?
Sir.
No, yes, maybe so.
Yes, sir.
So we say when viruses enter our body, they can stop normal cells from carrying out their important bodily functions. So what we can say is that the COVID-19 virus is what do you think the COVID-19 virus is stopping, or is stopping? What kind of bodily function is the COVID-19 virus stopping? So when people say they get the COVID get COVID, they find it hard to breathe. So the lungs are having troubles breathing. So the lungs have trouble exhaling and inhaling oxygen. So it's stopping respiratory functions in our body. And we say we can protect ourselves against viruses by washing our hands with soap and water. Don't forget the soap. So if you wash your hand with water alone, the virus cannot be killed. And if you wash your hand with soap alone, you have nothing to wash away the viruses when they die. Everyone following? So let's look at how the soap works. I don't have how soap kills. All right, here is it. So the coronavirus has a membrane of oily lipid molecules. So we say the oily lipid molecule, what we call the protein coating. See there, it's the protein coating, and it is what helps the virus infect cells. However, soap molecules have a hybrid structure. Hybrid means two different parts. So it has a part that bonds to water, and it has a part that hates water. And here we say how the soap destroys the virus. Sorry about that. So when the water shunning or the water hating tails, or the water we say we can't call the tails. So we say that the tail is hydrophobic, and hydrophobic means it hates water. It doesn't want to come near to water at all. And hydrophilic means that it loves water. It always wants to be in the presence of water. So what the tails of the soap molecules do is wedge themselves into the lipid membrane and pry it apart. And we say that the soap traps dirt and fragments of destroyed virus in tiny bubbles called microcells, which wash away in water. So that is why we need water. And if you don't have water to wash away those tiny bubbles, you still actually have components of the viruses on your hand, of the virus on your hand. So what the soap do is pull the COVID virus apart. You guys following so far? So the hydrophobic tails latches onto the outer layer of the cell, and that is the protein layer, the layer that is made up of oil, and it pulls it apart. When you add the water, the soap starts to pull it apart because the hydrophobic tail is trying to get away from the water. Has anyone tried the experiment where you put oil and water in a cup? Anyone ever tried that before?
Yes, sir.
And what happens to the oil?
It floated.
It floats on the top of the water because oil is hydrophobic. Oil hates water. Oil and water does not mix, and that is what is happening to the outer layer of the virus, of the coronavirus. So that outer layer that is made up of oil attaches with the hydrophobic part of the soap, and they try to break away from water. So they don't want to mix with the water, and that is what causes the cell to burst into the tiny bubbles. Everyone understanding? That is what causes cells to move away from the water. So let's look at how viruses enter the body. So we say that the virus enter the body releasing RNA. Two, let me make it bigger for you guys. Virus RNA invades the cell nucleus and takes it over. So it's technically like a hacker. Anyone ever had a virus on their computer before, and you see how the virus causes your computer to do things that you don't want the computer to do?
Sure.
So in this case, let's say that you are the brain of the computer. You're the person that is controlling the computer. However, unfortunately, you do something and a virus enters the computer. What the virus completely ignores your instructions. The computer completely starts ignoring your instructions and start doing the instructions of the virus. And this is what we say is happening inside of the body. The virus enters, invades, takes over, and your body cells stop doing what the nucleus of them, what their brains tell them. Stop doing what their brain is asking them to do. So we can say the body cells start getting unruly. So we say viral RNA uses the host cell to create new RNA and assemble more viral particles. So what is happening here? The viral RNA tells the host cell that, look, you have to start creating more of me, or in standard English, it tells the host cells to start creating new RNA and start making more virus. And then new virus particles are released, sometimes destroying the cell in process, unfortunately. And this is why viruses are very dangerous. I will say that RNA is known as ribonucleic acid. Anyone can pronounce that word? Ribonucleic acid? Okay. Only have a few minutes left in class, let's hurry. So let's look at plankton. Anyone know plankton from SpongeBob? Anyone know what is SpongeBob? I know plankton.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's look.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So we say planktons are very important in many ecosystems, from providing food for bivalves to whales. So there are two main types of plankton. We have phytoplankton, which are plants, and zooplankton, which are animals. And we can remember that a zoo keeps animals, so that is how we can remember what a zooplankton is. So a phytoplankton plant and a zooplankton animal. And we say that we keep animals in the zoo, so we can remember it that way. So we say zooplankton and other small marine creatures eat phytoplankton and then become food for fish, crustaceans, and other large species. So we know that plants make energy during photosynthesis. Anyone know about the process of photosynthesis?
Yes, I know.
Or how plants use the green
Yes, sir.
Okay, so plants use the green pigment inside of their leaves to capture sunlight and use it to make energy, and then they release oxygen, and we as humans use that oxygen to breathe. So actually, phytoplankton make their energy through photosynthesis, the process of using chlorophyll, which is the green pigment in plants, and sunlight to create energy. So like other plants, phytoplankton take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen. And we say that phytoplankton account for about half of the photosynthesis on the planet, making them one of the world's most important producers of oxygen. So planktons are actually very important. And we say in addition to phytoplankton and zooplankton, two even smaller kinds of plankton can be found floating in the sea, that are bacterioplankton, which are bacteria, and viroplankton, which are viruses. And so planktons can be found in salt water and fresh water. And one way to tell if a body of water has a large number of plankton is to look at this clarity. Have anyone went to any place and they see how water is dirty and murky? You ever go to any lakes, rivers, and the water looks greenish?
What you say? What you asking, sir? I can't hear you. Breaking up.
The water is not clean.
What you
Yes?
say, sir? What did you say, sir?
I'm saying that if any of you guys have ever went to any lakes or
What
any
you say,
rivers,
sir?
you're not hearing me?
No, sir. Can you say it again, please?
I'm saying that has anyone in here ever went to any lakes, rivers, ponds and see how the water is dirty?
Yeah, I've been to a river and I saw that the water was kind of green in one part.
Yeah, in part. So so they're saying here that possibly that water has plankton, because water change because they're in such a huge variety that they start changing how clear the water looks.
Yeah, but it didn't stay for long, sir. It just went down the current.
So here it says the very clear water usually has less plankton than water that is more green or brown in color. And here we have how some of these look, so you can go over that and look at them.
So, sir, you saying if we like swallowed river water by accident and it was green, we could have eaten plankton or something?
Yes, that is what I'm saying. You're more likely to have ingested some plankton.
Okay.
And let's look at fungi, or fungi, plural. So fungi are more closely related to animals than plants. Fungi are heterotrophic. Heterotrophic, they're like human beings. That means they don't produce their own food. They depend on plants to produce food and we eat them. So as a human being, we depend on plants to produce food, and the food has energy, and then we eat the plant and we get energy from that plant. Or we wait on the next animal to eat the plant, and we take the energy from that animal when we eat them. Everyone following so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I will say fungi multiply after sexually or both. I'm not sure if should I be explaining this concept to you guys at this point. So asexual mean that they don't need any parent. They only need one parent. So that one parent can produce by themselves. And sexually mean that they need two parents. So they need a mother and a father to help to produce new fungi. Everyone understanding?
Yes, sir.
So asexual, you only need the mother or you only need the father, and they can produce more fungi. Sexual, you need both mother and father. So humans reproduce sexually. That means you need your mother and you need your father to make new human. So majority of fungi produce spores, which are defined as multicellular. So we say that fungi are multicellular. And we say that fungi interact with other organisms by either forming beneficial or mutualistic associations or by causing serious infections. So have you guys learned about mutualism? I think that is one that you should learn about that in one of the classes.
Yes, sir, we did.
Okay, very. And what do we say mutualism is? Anyone want to say what mutualism is?
Isn't it when two organisms basically benefit each other? Provide some form of benefit.
Yeah, very good, very good. Very good. So let's look at some typical fungal cells. So they have a cell wall, they have a cell membrane, they have mitochondria, they have cytoplasm, they have a vacuole, and they have a nucleus. How do they differ from bacterial cells? Anyone can tell me how they differ from a bacterial cell? What does this cell have that the
because
okay, very
this
good. And it doesn't have the mitochondria.
Yes, does it have a mind? No, it's not that. It's that bacterial cells. Is that bacterial cells or have a tail, like have tails.
Yes, but and they also don't have a nucleus as we discussed earlier. So you're right on both parts. Is that okay? Is that okay with you? You're right on both parts? So let's look at host-parasite relationships. We only have 1 minute. So a parasitic relationship is one in which one organism, the parasite, lives off another organism, the host, harming it and probably causing death. So the parasite lives on or in the body of the host. Anyone know any parasites in any common parasites? Anyone know any parasites that lives in the
Parasite.
like worms? You know that they say we have worms inside of us. We have intestinal worms that live inside the intestine. And in Jamaica, your parents go outside and buy a Zentel to kill them. So those intestinal worms are actually parasites. And they can eventually harm us if we don't get rid of them as early as possible. So let's look at factors that determine the outcome of most host-parasite relationships. So we say that specific factors influencing host-parasite associations are among climate conditions, behavioral traits, host sociality, population density, diet, habitat, age, sex, host immune health, supplementary feeding, and animal translocation or movements. Let's say we have let's say we have cattle, or we have cows. The cows are moving from one place to another. It's more likely that the cows can pick up some type of parasite and have them in, and then they
Animal parasite.
they ingest these parasites, and then they make the cow meat harmful for us as humans to eat. Anyone eat cow? Anyone eat beef? Anyone in here eat beef?
Sometimes.
Yes, sir.
The evolution of host-parasite relationships. So we say that most parasitic relationships are very specific and complex. And what that means that each relationship, that means that the relationship between a dog and his parasite won't be the same as the relationship between a cat and her or his parasite. So each is specific and each is very complex. So there's a range of different interactions. How a parasite affects a human being won't be the same way a parasite affects an animal. How a parasite affects me won't be the same way it affects you, since I have a more mature immune system than you guys at this point in life. So I would be better capable of warding off parasites than you. So that's why we say that the relationships are very specific and complex. You guys understand that? And then we say the parasite and host have co-evolved. So what we're saying that along with humans, parasites has evolved with us. So if you evolve, the parasite can also evolve. This means that the host has developed a defense mechanism. So the immune system are hydrochloric acid in the stomach. And anyone know what hydrochloric acid is? We call it HCl in chemistry class.
No, sir.
Okay, you can look at that up more. So it's a chemical.
It's
So
like it's like the acid that breaks down food.
Yes, very good. Yes, the acid that breaks down food. So your host, so humans have, so what that acid does is like kill certain parasites that is on the food. So that is what makes most, because not all food even if you wash some types of food, that doesn't mean that the parasite on that food is dead. So the body has hydrochloric acid to help fight off any parasite that may enter the body. And we say that the longer the relationship has existed, the more host specific the parasite becomes. The more host specific the parasite becomes. So the longer you have intestinal worms, the more specific those intestinal worms becomes to your body, the more harmful it becomes to you. You guys follow me? That is all we have for today's class. You guys can start leaving now.
Thank you for teaching us, sir.
Yes? Yes, who was talking?